We are back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson, and this morning we're speaking with Jolana Pettifer of Jolana's Exceptional Home Decor. And we're talking about reduce, reuse, recycle today. It's spring. It's time to get these things going. I'm going to ask you a question. One of our listeners phoned in and she said, Jolana, what about using furniture in unusual places? I looked at it and I thought, what the heck is she talking about?
Oh, I know what she's talking about.
She says, what about a couch in the bedroom? And why can't we put artwork in the bathroom?
Sure you can. 100% you can. In fact, some of the most interesting rooms is when you've got some pieces that kind of don't really seem to belong. They become like the piece of art. And how you can make that work is by, if it's a favorite piece and you love how it sits and it's really comfortable, or it has an incredible frame on it, reusing it by reupholstering it is a wonderful way to give it new life again. If in the bedroom you don't have a lot of space, I'm going to tell you don't want to, put a sofa in there. But if your window overlooks like yours does in the backyard, something magnificent, well, to put a couple of chairs on swivels in there would be absolutely magnificent because you can direct it towards the bed, you can direct it towards the TV, or you can spin around and look at that incredible outdoors that you have. So actually having furniture in a master bedroom, I have a sofa in mine and I love it because it gives me the ability, if I want to go up and read a book or look through a magazine, I can go into a smaller space instead of being in a really big space when nobody's home. So it's creating that nice charm, comfortable, safe spot that you may want to be in. And then having said that, putting an absolutely incredible, awesome chair into an ensuite looks so good. But again, I'm going to say, make sure that there is space, because the last thing you want to do is put something into a space where it just cannot take it.
It's
Art,
crammed up or something.
for sure. Wall doesn't take up any space, but seating space, you just want to make sure that it's going to be functional for yourself and you're not tripping around any kind of furniture. Putting a really, charming mirror that's old or it's an antique into a space where otherwise it may be totally lost. Oh my goodness, it's just a really wonderful thing to do. So yeah, I love that question. It's a great question.
Okay. So what about art in a bathroom?
Yeah, why not?
But won't the shower wreck it?
No, because you're going to have proper fans that are going to do what they're supposed to do. And if you are finding you're getting mildew and all the rest of it, I highly recommend you get someone in there to replace the fan, because the fans today, they just suck that dampness right out of the room. That's what they're supposed to do. They have to be vented. Well, they have to be vented properly.
Right.
Yeah, and it's still a big problem for a lot of people because they don't realize how important that is.
Okay. So you've got some little notes there about what we're going to be doing outside, inside. What are we doing now?
Yeah. So again, on the topic of reusing, so we all have great frames. I kind of giggle sometimes, and including in my own home, I'll walk through and I've got pictures that are so outdated.
But they're funny, aren't they?
But some are funny, so you're going to keep some. You don't have to update every single picture, but to be able to take a picture frame that you still love, and that's going to be the most important part of this, and update it, creating a family wall of fame, for example. So whether that means showing the kids growing up at different levels, or whether you love to travel and you love to collect pictures, that is a really, really fun way to take some old picture frames and reuse them. Right. Painting them. If you don't like the color, go out and get yourself some black lacquer paint and spray them. It'll give them a really modern appeal to them, and maybe put some art that's a little bit more classic or modern into it, like black and white sketches or what have you. So that's a really, really nice thing to do. Wall groupings can be everything from gallery style, where you may have 3, 4, 5 pictures just simply going down a hallway, or doing that whole grouping aspect where you take one picture and then everything kind of comes out of that. So it's again, it tells a story, which is why I love the whole wall grouping ideas. So
it tells a story and it takes up a nice space too.
It does.
I know I have seen walls where it's a big wall with one little picture in the middle.
and hung too high usually.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's just a little disconcerting. You kind of think to yourself, did you actually look at this before you do it? Anyway.
And again, I tell everybody, it's proportions. If you put something up and it looks wrong, you may not know why. It probably is wrong. So, doing a little bit of research, finding out what is a good height to hang pictures at. Mm-hmm. How can you put a grouping together? The internet is wonderful for all that kind of information. Again, we talked about if we don't have a lot of space, well, maybe this is the year you go into the laundry room and you say, okay, let's do locker styles where I'm going to have space for everything and it's going to be functional and it's going to be practical so that you don't have, 20 pairs of boots that everyone is tripping over as soon as they walk in the door. So it's just trying to create a space where everything has a space and there is space for everything. And that is critical. It is so important. And it just makes life so much easier for not just yourself, but for everyone because they know where to put everything.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then it does look neater instantly just because things are put in their place. Yeah. And people do tend to keep it in their place if there's a place to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
if there's no place to put it, then they just kind of shove things everywhere.
Well, they find a counter, they found a desk, they found any kind of surface where it can go. Stairs, you just shove it on the stairs. So yeah, if you try and make it so that it is functional, it is easier. Now, that's not to say that my house doesn't get overwhelmed. It does. Everybody's does. Everybody lives. Yeah. But it's just trying to make it that little more functional for your day-to-day. It's like your kitchen. When you're creating a kitchen, you take the time to write down your inventory list. What is it that I have? What is it that I would like? How much space do I want for spices? And everybody is different.
Everybody is different, yep.
It is no different to going into something like a laundry room and doing the same thing.
Well, I actually know of a construction company downtown, Wheaton Construction, and they've won awards for their laundry room design.
Yeah.
And when you go in,
you can get so clever.
You realize why they win an award for a laundry room design, which seems like such a practical, nobody sees it kind of spot. But nowadays, a lot of the houses are designed with the laundry room right when you come in from the garage. Mm-hmm. So people are walking through there 100 times a day. So it's nice to have it designed nicely so that you can
one of my favorite things that we did is we took an old ladder. It was an old ladder. You had it attached with brackets to the wall so it hung straight up. Mm-hmm. But then if you wanted to hang up your clothes, it came up and there was a hook on the other side and you hung your hangers. Nice. From it. And so you can be so creative. You can have things that come out of your cabinetry where you can hang clothing. There are so many internal elements that, again, are hidden behind beautiful cabinets. You go to Richelieu, oh my goodness, sky's the limit. You can do just about everything.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Sounds like fun. Mm-hmm. We're going to take another break. You're listening to Fresh Waves here on Whistle FM, and we are talking with Jolana Pettifer of Jolana's Exceptional Home Décor this morning. Jolana's a regular guest of ours, so if you'd like to contact us, do so, and she will answer all of your questions. We'll be right back.
We're taking strides to make a difference, to show we care. Strides for Change.
In communities across this country, MAD Canada hosts Strides for Change, an annual 5K walkathon and wheelchair event. Help raise awareness to stop impaired driving and raise funds to support the victims of this violent crime. So join the fun. Together, we can make a change.
We're taking strides to make a difference. Strides for Change.
Visit stridesforchange.ca.
Hi folks, Kim Mitchell here. However you choose to get around, your ATV, your snowmobile, your boat, car, if you have a motorcycle, all these things take 100% of your attention and skill to operate safely. Alcohol impairs that, and bad things can happen. So, be smart, okay? You know what I'm going to say next.
This message brought to you from the Safe and Sober Awareness Committee.
We're back on Fresh Waves. We're here with Jolana Pettifer. I'm your host, Bren Masson, and we're talking about spring decorating from a reuse, reduce, and recycle point of view. So we're going to move into a little bit of more recycling. Now, we know that a lot of your plastic pots that you want to just
throw out,
recycle them. Paint cans, as long as they're dry, you can recycle it. We'll be talking about that in the second hour with Lori. But what about recycling or repurposing some other things in your house?
Yeah, so when I think of recycle, it's taking something that is of no use to you anymore. You take it to the curb and they make something else out of it.
Right.
So that's how I'm kind of taking this next part and saying, you have furniture. You may not necessarily love it, but you can take it and you can recycle it into a brand new piece. So think of maybe a small little dresser or a dresser. It can now become a vanity. You can actually recycle it to give it a whole new life, repurpose it, give it that wow factor. Redefine finds, I mean, quite often what they'll do is they'll take old pieces and they'll completely transform it into a more current type of a piece simply by doing some really incredible painting techniques, finishing techniques on it. So it's the same idea. You're taking things that you have in your home, because things that are 30, 40, 50 years old, they are made so well. You probably cannot replace them with the same kind of quality.
Right.
So this is one spot where you can take it and you have to think outside the box a little bit. You can have the main cabinet of it one color. You can have the drawers a completely different color. You can do texturizing on it. You can do shading on it. You can use the metallics on it. You can change an end table that was, an old mahogany table that you still love the shape of it, but hate it. Bring in a really bright red lacquer, have fun with it.
Right.
If your tops are so badly damaged.
I'm having heart palpitations.
Yes.
Turning mahogany
There you
into
go.
red lacquer.
Oh, it looks
still my heart.
We actually did it, and it is unbelievable for a client, Sandy. Yeah, because we wanted something. She had the most incredible carpets that were brought over from overseas that had all the royal blues, the reds, the golds, like magnificent carpets. We went very neutral, so the actual chairs were like in a grayish linen, which was very neutralizing. Then we stuck this red lacquer end table in between those two chairs, and it is just absolutely outstanding. And then with the right type of art in it, we went really simple and simply did shears. So instead of really heavy window treatments, you just have to think outside the box. 100% you do. It is so fun to do that. Taking a basket, like we talked about, take a basket if you want it to have some color. Paint it and roll up blankets. Sure you can. You can roll up blankets. You can put towels into it, put it into an ensuite, depending on what your themes are. So again, yes, you can. You just have to make sure you know what product to use so that it's going to actually do the job that you need it to do.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And even old lamps, same thing. Quite often it's the shades that make them feel like they're so old and ugly. You go outside and you get a really wonderful cylinder style shade that's in either a white or a linen tone. You put that onto that existing lamp, and that lamp all of a sudden becomes like it's something you just purchased. So, yeah. Look at the things you have. Recycle them. Just change them up a bit.
Yeah.
And it'll be...
There's some good ideas. My brain is just going flippity flop here thinking, wow.
Chandeliers. We took an old gold chandelier and painted it black and added all the crystals back to it. This was in a young couple with a young family's master bedroom. Painted it black, put all the crystals back on, and amazing. They didn't have to spend a penny on it.
Wow.
Right? So it's a budget thing, but not only a budget thing, I think it is really important that we start to think about that whole reusing, reducing, and recycling, because it's just staggering. I was watching on the History Channel where they went into the deepest cavern known on Earth, and they found garbage there, and you just kind of think, that is so sad. Absolutely
so
sad.
Yeah.
So
there are things that are very sentimental but no longer serve a purpose. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we had a listener who has called in and said she's had an old piano in her basement for years, but it was her grandfather's piano, and it has a lot of sentimental value. It can no longer be tuned, so it's virtually useless. And she has just found a carpenter in town who is going to turn it into a beautiful
cabinet
table.
or something.
Just a table with the keyboard still there. So she'll always have that reminder of that beautiful keyboard that everybody has played down through the generations. And, I think to myself, wow, thanks for sharing that story, Shirley. I really appreciate it. And it's a great thing to do.
Well, my
What a nice
mother-in-law,
way.
she has an old-fashioned sewing machine with the foot pedal. It's her Frental table. And it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So, yes, you're right.
Does it still have the pedal on it?
Everything is on it. Yeah, it's the old cast iron.
Right.
With the big round on the
Wheels.
side. Absolutely gorgeous. And that is her Frental table. So, yes, you can.
And that's a bit whimsical too, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. Very whimsy.
That's so nice. What a great example of reducing and reusing
Yeah,
and recycling,
right?
turning it into something new. Yes, we love this subject, and we love the fact that you can all of a sudden have these great pieces in your home that you never ever thought of having before. Jay, we're going to take a little quick break, and when we come back, Lori's going to overlap for a minute since she's here in the studio, and we'll talk about the paint cans and stuff, just because I think that's very appropriate and a nice segue into the next hour of the show. So do stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Claudio here with knowledgeflow.ca. If your family has been the victim of cybercrime, cyberbullying, or malicious privacy abuses, you're not alone. It's happening every day and sometimes carries tragic consequences, as we've seen in recent news. What's the solution? Don't internalize it. If it's an urgent issue, call the police immediately. If, however, you would like professional advice, you can confidentially email report@knowledgeflow.ca and get some ideas for dealing with social media, instant messaging, webcams, hacking, identity breaches, etc. Remember to visit knowledgeflow.ca on Facebook and potentially arrange a seminar for your community center, your school, or your Board of Education.
And we're back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. We're talking with Jolana Pettifer. We've been talking about decorating and redoing your house with the things that you already have, as opposed to going out and buying all new stuff. And now joining us in the studio, and she'll be here for another hours, Lori McNaughton from the town of Witchert Stouffville, and she's the recycling guru. So tell us, we did have, we mentioned the fact that when you're painting your house, you can recycle the paint cans, but I think they have to be dry.
Yeah, as long as they're empty and dry, and leave the lids off so the drivers can see that they're empty and dry, then yeah, you can definitely put them in your blue box.
Okay, and if you've got, when you went downstairs to see what paints you had left from the last reno and realized that it was from 1812, what do we do with that paint that you can absolutely no longer use?
So they all have to be taken to a hazardous waste depot, and there's depots all around York Region. The closest one to us is in Richmond Hill. It's on Elgin Mills Road, and all the information's in our waste collection calendar, all the hours and everything. And they take them there, and you can drop them off for free, and they'll be taken care of.
Does Ravenshoe have that facility as well?
Yep.
Okay. That's closer for me because I live out of town.
Yeah. Or there's one on Bales Drive as well.
Okay, so does that hold true with all of these things that we've been talking about, like the refinishing solutions and the stains and the paint brushes and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, any hazardous waste can go there, including engine oils from your car, things like that. Propane tanks, cylinders from your barbecue.
So I have a question for you. This is always one that comes up all the time. Are water bottles supposed to have the lids on or off? Are we supposed to crunch them, put the lid back on so there's next to nothing on it?
Don't crunch them just because it makes it harder to go through all the sorting facility. Yeah, it just makes it smaller and they get jammed in the gears and things like that.
I'm glad I asked.
Yep, and keep the lids on just because they are recyclable and they're too small to go through everything on their own.
And have they gotten to the point where we can recycle styrofoam yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Because I know they're talking about, like, that is a huge research and development one they're working on.
Yeah, there's just not a large market that York Region has found, and there's not a lot of weight to styrofoam. So for them to be able to produce it and get enough,
Right.
it's a lot.
Which actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So for now, that is truly garbage.
We're hoping people
Yeah.
stop using styrofoam.
Don't
Well, but you know what it
Do not
is?
buy styrofoam furniture.
Okay.
That's right,
You know what drives me insane, and I'm so glad you're here. It is not the end user should be blamed for
No.
putting all that stuff in the garbage.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, why, when you buy milk, are you buying 3 bags within another bag, which is then put into another bag to carry home? Can you explain that one to me?
Well, unfortunately, it goes back to the producers. And York Region, where all the municipalities are working with the province to try and have the producers take a little bit
Because
more
I always
responsibility.
feel like I'm the bad guy, and yet I'm like, I just
didn't
bought,
ask for it to be put in that packaging.
Yeah, I just bought a
exactly.
light bulb.
Yeah.
And there it comes with so much
The
packaging.
styrofoam, yep, and that's where we have to send it back to the
Yeah.
producers
Yeah.
to start thinking about their packaging and how it's
And
produced.
does the government do that? Like, is there some kind of a...
Yep, it's all in progress right now with
It
the
is,
provincial government. It started with the former government, and then we had a little bit of change, and now
Yeah,
it's
a little
it's
bit of
back.
change.
Yeah,
It's so politically nice of you.
yeah.
I wouldn't have said it quite like that, but then again, that's just me.
And now it's back in full force to try and get them to take more responsibility with
Right.
even the single-use plastics, like the plastic utensils and the straws. And I know when you're out, you're seeing more and more compostable straws, which is good.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah,
It
or
is
they're giving you
good.
the choice if you want one or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we have to go there even more. I was speaking with the manager, Glenn, over at Longo's and saying, how come I can't buy reusable produce bags here? Where are the mesh produce bags? If I can get them at Nature's Emporium, why can't I get them at Longo's? And
You know
all
what they
the
have
other
at
big grocery
Longo's, which
stores?
is even better than reusable bags? Have you seen those? They're like square bins that fold into nothing.
Yes, I've seen them. They're
We
really
keep them
nice.
in our cars. They are much easier to carry, and you can load a ton into them. And we've had ours for years, and they are still like the day we bought them. So you're not having to pitch them.
Yeah, exactly.
because they're falling apart.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that to anyone over any kind of a reusable bag.
Yeah, I like the little produce bags though that are mesh, so that you can just put them right into your crisper in the fridge. And unlike the plastic that makes it rot, the little mesh bag just keeps all the apples in one spot.
Yeah. And I mean, Longo's is good because they do have the compostable containers, and they've gone
Yeah.
compostable and recyclable. So.
Right. Yeah, it's just you don't want the 15
just a
Brussels
matter of-
sprouts rolling all over the fridge if you can avoid it, right?
Exactly.
Especially when you miss one.
Yeah, and it just stays there for a few months. You know, it doesn't last until next Christmas, no matter what you do with it.
Right.
Anyway, we've had a great morning talking with
Yeah.
Jolana. We've got some super tips for decorating and reusing some of the things that you have. And go and check out Redefine Finds. I mean, we're a community radio station. I know this is not an advertising pitch, but they do really interesting things with your furniture. Get some ideas. Go window shopping up and down Main Street here and see what people have done and what they can do. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It is, and there's a sense of purpose and pride. So when you've created something with your own hands, when you've taken something that you thought was nothing and created into something wonderful, it is wow.
We're going to see if we can find a picture of that red lacquered table because it's like nails on a chalkboard, mahogany turned into red lacquer.
It's gorgeous.
Okay,
I have it
so
somewhere.
we're gonna have a picture of that on the website later on. Jolana, thank you so much for
You're
joining us
so
this
welcome.
morning. And we
Always
look
fun.
forward to seeing you again in June, as we always do, and we'll put together something that'll take people through the summertime, because by
sounds
June,
great.
maybe we'll have some warm enough weather that we
I
can
hope
actually
so.
sit outside and then figure out what the house looks like from the outside and do some painting and
Yes.
some trim work and stuff
And happy
like that.
spring to everyone, and we'll be talking soon, and I'll be listening to you guys.
All right, thanks very much. We're going to take our top of the hour break, and when we get back, we'll continue our conversation with Lori about reducing, reusing, and recycling. Here come the facts, people, so stay tuned.